The good news is the sessions are recorded. So if we have any real questions, we can go back to the recording, which, by the way, just so that we have it in the recording, when you're ripping back, if you have to take out a row that has a German short row in it, just when you get to that short row stitch, make sure that you pull the yarn to the side that you're working on so that you can take the stitch out in its completed stitch, then put the yarn back to the side that you're taking out, so that you're always making sure you're taking out the proper number of stitches. And then what I do every now and then is I just count, like I'm on this section here where I'm increasing all the way around. I'm only have a couple more rows to go till it's time to split for the body and the sleeves. So every 3 or 4 rows, I count my stitches between my markers just to be sure I'm on track, rather than me counting how many, because it says count, repeat rows 1 and 2 for example, for 22 increases. Well, I'd have to do my little slash marks all those rows, but if I just count and my count is right, then I know that I'm on the right track. So whatever works for you in those, during those increases. And this is, I'm on page 5 here. So when you're doing page 5 and you're increasing that section, it's interesting how your rows, do you notice how your increased rows start with a lift 1 left and then slip your marker? So your row actually, your lift starts before your row begins. It doesn't start when you're inside that row. So make sure that you lift before you start that row. And Sally, you've already gotten to that, past that point.
Now look at all the notes all over.
Right. You've already passed that point. So what I have to make sure is that when I'm on row 2 of that, round 2 is just knit to the beginning of the marker. So you want to make sure that you don't double lift where you're not supposed to. So that's something you want to keep track of as you're going along. And that helps you, counting the stitches every now and then helps to keep you on track there.
Now that round 2, right where you're looking, Paulette.
Yeah.
It says knit to the beginning of round. That's just knit. You knit a plain round between all of these things almost every single time.
Yes.
Like what
Yeah.
you're doing, there's that plain knit row.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I don't know about the rest of the pattern because I haven't gotten to it yet, but right now what I've seen so far is you do an increase row and then you do a straight row, and you do an increase row and then a straight row. And so that follows throughout.
And then when you get to number 4, move the X, you'll see it. It's every alternate row.
Is knit to the beginning of the round. Yeah. Yep. Pat, is your work nice and happy there? Good. Want to forget anyone here? Miss Rita, what's going on there in California?
Well, I woke up to the tsunami warning and I said, well, the sirens aren't going off, so I'm safe.
My goodness.
I'm waiting for my yarn as well. And so I had to take out some stitches on this cowl I'm working on. So I got, I'm back to where I need to be on track for that. Well,
Okay, good.
And I'm trying to absorb all these little tips and tricks, and hopefully I can remember them all when I get started.
Well, and you know what happens if you can't, right?
Oh, yes.
Just give me a call. Give me a call and I'll resend the link to the videos and, all that good stuff that we have. And I'm always here to help you out. We can Zoom, we can FaceTime, whatever you all need.
Yeah, thank you. Very appreciated of that.
No problem.
This yarn is just scrumptious, Paulette.
Are you loving it?
Oh, the stitch definition is just, it is
Isn't
just
it?
beautiful.
I know, I love
Oh.
it too. I am
Oh.
so glad. Yeah, yeah, I know, you can't wait.
And it feels so nice.
Oh,
On my own, I never would have even looked at this yarn. So I'm so glad for your expertise in the selection process.
Oh,
It's
I'm
amazing.
glad.
Amazing
I'm so
stuff.
glad.
Yeah.
It's so hard when you're trying, it's like when you go grocery shopping. I used to hate grocery shopping. Well, I still do, but
Mhm.
I always used to I'd say, why do I have to decide what everybody wants to eat? It's like one of the hardest things that I'm in the grocery store. Like, what will everyone want? And I go through that with the yarns too. We have so many. I'm so blessed that I have such a great variety of yarns. And then I don't know, okay, so what is everybody gonna want? What if they, but maybe if they try it. With Hannah, I actually sent Hannah just a little wound piece of the yarn. So she said, I want to feel it first. I need to feel it. Nancy came to the house and she's like rubbing it on her neck to see if it felt good, because fortunately Nancy lives close enough that she can do that. But because you never know. But I try not to do anything. If I'm using something that's a wool, like a Noro silk garden, I'll just say this is a typical wool, so that people understand that this is going to be a scratchy wool. And I'm always happy to send a sample, just a tasting piece out to you so that you can feel it. Not enough to do anything with other than get a feel for what that yarn is all about.
I appreciate your tasting kits for the Noro magazine
Oh,
selection
good.
very
Oh,
much.
good. Yep. I'm glad you like that. It's funny, I create these things and then I don't know what people do with them. And we had a participant at the retreat in November who actually took all her little tasting samples that I sent, knitted them into swatches for however much she could knit, just to get a feel for that yarn, and then labeled each one of them and brought them to the retreat so people could see. And like, that's what they're there for. It's just to give you an idea of how does that yarn feel in my hand? Do I want to knit with it?
Mhm.
And then do I see something that I want to make with that yarn?
Mhm.
And I'm really glad that I came up with those tasting kits. I do like them.
Absolutely.
They're
I've already
great.
pre-ordered for the next Noro magazine.
Yep.
I can hardly wait. That'll be exciting.
Me too. I'm still,
It'll be like a party day.
right? I just got in one of the samples for Hanui, the Brioni sweater. I guess there was a mistake in the original pattern. And so all the test knitters had to get a new pattern and they had to recreate it. And so we just got that sample in today, and I am so impressed with that yarn. It's soft. I would have thought because it's 100% wool that it was going to be really scratchy. It is just, you can feel lanolin, it's like it's got that lanolin feel to it. Beautiful, beautiful natural fiber in that yarn. So I'm really
What weight
pleased
is
with
it?
that. Sorry?
What weight?
That is, I believe it could be a 5 or it's a 4 or a 5. Hold on a second. We have yarn avalanches in this house. Every time I go to get something, there's like things tumble out of a bin. So it's a 4. It's
Ooh.
a worsted weight, and they're all. I don't know if you were familiar with Nitty Gritty Yarn Girl at the time when this came out, Sally. It's these are all natural colors, so there's no dyes at all. This is the natural color from the sheep, and so they're all different shades of brown.
I love that. I can't wait to get my.
Oh
fingers
my
on it.
goodness.
Yeah, this is real. I'll grab the sweater
Oh my.
while we're knitting.
1, 2, 3, 4. We're at 5.
Bless you.
Ooh,
Oh, that's cute.
ooh, is that going to be our next knit along?
I love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's
Now, my
gorgeous.
sample is really big. The sample is really big. Actually, it fits my husband. And you know what? He loves it.
Oh, is that the Nora Goggins sweater?
This is the Brioni.
That's one that caught my eye in the magazine.
Look how pretty that
Gorgeous.
is.
I
Yep.
just
That's
love
gorgeous.
So that's the, oh, and it has the little, it has the same trim around the sleeves.
that. Mhm.
Ah. And a long cuff.
And how, you know, I'm gonna look at the pattern though, because I don't remember that long cuff in the pattern. Sometimes, you know, when they have sample knitters, the sample knitters don't always follow the instructions. You know, the way the designer writes them. The pattern knitter just keeps going. And so I like to always compare it against the pattern, and then if I have to make note to the audience when I demonstrate it that it's the sleeve is made a little bit longer, the body in this one was made a little bit longer, because for some reason the sweater seems to be much longer. I don't remember it being a longer length. Is that the puppy, Anna? Hi, puppy.
Let's have a better look.
The puppy or the sweater? Yeah,
The puppy, of course.
the puppy, right, exactly. Nothing's as important as the puppy.
Excuse me.
Where's
That's
Louie,
cute.
Nancy?
Louis is napping, thank God, or I wouldn't be able to knit.
Louie's the cutest. Was it Cavapoo?
He's a Cavachon.
A Cavachon.
Oh, yes.
And he came to the house with Nancy this past week to pick up her yarn, and Ben didn't know he was coming. Now Ben is like the world's biggest protector. Look at poor Anna.
So what does the Sean stand for in a Cavachon?
He's a Cavalier and a Bijan.
Oh, I have a Cavapoo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
he's not sleeping. He's in his kennel because I wouldn't be knitting if he wasn't.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, Ben. Fortunately with Ben, he's so tiny that even if he sits on my lap, I can knit. But every now
Yeah.
and then he does one of these, and it's like, pay attention to me.
Yeah, my Riggs is 7 months and he has a fetish for my stitch markers. As soon as I take one out and lay it down, he can find it.
It becomes his, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. So when Louis came to the house the other day, when Ben saw him out from the inside, he thought it was his friend, his friend dog, his dog friend. And so he's wagging his tail because he thinks Girlie's here. And then all of a sudden he got a closer look and he must have picked up a scent. He's like, whoa, that's not her. I don't know what I'm going to do now. So he went into protector mode. And Ben at 4 pounds thinks he's, was that Mufasa in the jungle? You know, he is the Lion King. He is
That is
sure.
small.
Yeah.
Is that full grown?
Oh, he's 11 years old.
Oh my goodness, 4
Yeah.
pounds. That's
Yeah.
tiny.
With a little tiny dog that's approaching middle age.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he tries to protect it, and he wants to let Louis know that it's his house, except
he
that he's
did.
not. Yes, he did. Except that Ben is not an alpha dog. He'll bark at you. But then all of a sudden Louis had had enough, and he just went grrr, and Ben backed right away. And then he wanted to be his buddy, and Louis wanted nothing to do with him. And it's just so funny to watch the dynamic between the animals. It's just poor Louis. He's probably never going to want to come here again. He'll say, please leave me
He'll
in the
get
car,
over
mommy.
it.
Please leave me in the car.
He'll get over it.
Right?
I need to say, see you on Thursday.
Okay.
I didn't get my morning chores done, so.
I didn't either. I'll see you all on Thursday.
Nancy, before
No
you go,
problem.
where do you live?
I live in Madison, Connecticut.
Oh, we're all practically neighbors,
And you are where again?
Saybrook.
Oh, yeah, we're neighbors. I
Yeah.
just went to the fish market in Saybrook, the Atlantic Fish Market.
All right. That's the best place to go for fish in this whole state.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, maybe she can do some of your chores for you, Nancy.
Oh, that's a
Maybe not.
great idea.
We'll see you Thursday. No problem.
Enjoy your week, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care.
Your knitting.
Bye.
Bye.
Paulette,
Yes, Chair.
as long as you're talking about something other than this particular sweater, you had on this site, the Carmel by the Sea,
Yeah.
you know, the art yarn. How much yardage is in there? Is there enough yardage to do a cowl? A friend of mine really likes it.
Yes, there is enough yardage to do it because 438 yards and it's a sport weight. She suggests a 5 to 6 needle. There's a beautiful,
What's the fabric? Is it a wool? What is it?
it's 80% merino, and 20% cashmere.
Oh, wow. We were just talking, I was just with her when she was just talking about it. So I'm going to ask you.
It's
Such-
beautiful.
gotta
There's
be
a
enough
lovely,
to
there's a
cowl.
lovely slip stitch cowl. And it's on the website with the Carmel by the Sea yarn. That takes one skein of each color, but you can certainly do a cowl with one color, no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
And, you know, I would personally, I'd look for a pattern that I wanted to knit with it first before I went out, you know, and came short up,
I
you know.
don't care if she ends up buying it and lets you sits with it. She just really just thought it was so pretty.
Ah, got it.
It's down here, I don't know up by you, but down here, there's been these most gorgeous sunsets with all these gorgeous colors and
I
keep
heard, yeah.
snapping pictures. And then you see this yarn and it sort of looked like those sunsets.
Yep.
They've
Yeah.
been amazing.
Iris has a nice eye for doing things like that.
Yeah, she's down here. I was
I
in
know.
that, I was in many years ago.
Yeah.
I was in her little studio over there because Colonial Needles had been a client of ours and they were like right next door to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, her studio is quite interesting. I was very impressed with watching them actually paint the yarn with paintbrushes. They paint the dyes. I don't know how the heck they do it, and I don't need to. You know, I don't need to know how things work. I just need to know that they work. I mean, I find it interesting to watch how things are made, but I don't ever want to say, oh, I think I want to do that.
You know,
In this case, I mean, there are things that I've wanted to try and I've done, but I think art, dyeing yarn is truly an art.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone to a yarn dyeing class and I had a blast and I knitted my very first, what was that? What's that Stephen West cowl that I love? The one that's behind me. What's it called?
The batad.
Batad.
batad?
Thank you. The batad. Yeah, I knitted my first batad with the yarn that I had that I dyed at a class.
Paulette, you do test knitting?
I do not.
Because
I
I was
don't
going
have
to, how
time.
do you, I was going to say you run a business, da 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 da. Presumably you eat some meals now and then, and presumably you sleep at night sometimes.
Yeah.
How would you ever have time?
I don't. When Iris had asked me to join the knit along that she's doing on Ravelry for this new pattern, for this new yarn. And I just said, I don't have time. I want to knit the sample for my shop, but I can't knit it on a knit along because I can't commit that I can have enough of it done with the group. And then she's, not only she, but other places have asked me, other designers have asked for test knitters, and I don't have the time to sit there and figure out what should be right in a pattern. I want to
Yeah,
get
that's
it when
it.
somebody already did that. And I mean, I think tech editors and test knitters, I give them a lot of credit. I really do. Everybody's good at something. I have a couple of customers who are test knitters for some designers, and a few customers who are sample knitters for designers. And it's wonderful that they have that kind of time and that they enjoy the craft so much that that's what they want to do. And I think it's great.
They've
And I'm
run
very
out of
proud
people
of them when I see
to-
their work on the cover of a magazine or, on the cover of a brochure.
I have so many things that I want to knit, and I knit slow because I'm fairly new, and I work, and it's like that darn work gets in the way.
Yep. I remember it well, believe me. And now this is work.
But
You know, it's
this
like it-
year I got a plan, and I'm writing down all the things I really, really want. Like I just bought some yarn, the Queensland yarn
Yeah.
that I got. I've been wanting to knit that night shift for a while. So that's going to be on my up and coming to do. So I'm trying to plan out my year a little bit with and
And go into that stash that you have. I mean, you're a newer knitter, so you maybe don't have a whole lot of stash. But when you're thinking about what you want to make, I'm sure, I mean, I'd love for you to buy all your yarn from us, but there's sometimes you have something at home and people will call me and say, I've got this yarn. What do you have that I can add to it? I
yeah.
just did that last night with Carolyn Noller.
Yeah. See, when I first started, I was buying the yarn. Oh my God, I just love this color, or whatever. And now it's like, I do have that issue. But what I found on Ravelry, which is pretty cool, that you can type in your yarn and figure out the projects. And because the thing I'm knitting now, it was supposed to be a hat. I said, oh, I like that hat pattern. I learned the hard way that just because it's on Ravelry or somewhere, it's not necessarily a pattern a newer knitter can follow, or
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I took out 2 different hats and now I'm doing a cowl with this.
Right. Well, hats
So-
can sometimes be confusing.
It was coming out small. Even my 3-year-old granddaughter, it was on, it's like, wow. So
I had a new knitter one time who, after her class, her learn to knit class, she wanted to knit mittens for her son. And so she went and she found this pattern. It was called the world's easiest knit mittens. Well, let me share with you, it was not. First of all, what she didn't realize was that you don't just pick a pattern and then try to knit it with any yarn you happen to have.
yeah.
Because besides having the yarn weight, you also have to look at the gauge.
Yeah.
Because not everything gauges the same way. So, so then she had that to deal with. But it was just the funniest thing, which is like, well, what yarn can I use for these mittens? But I don't like that yarn. Okay, so let's find another one. But you can't use the one you have because you have fingering weight yarn in your hand, and that's a worsted weight pattern, honey. That's just not going to work. We can't make enough adjustments for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you ever need to like mix yarns, give me a holler. We can always see what we can add to it. I'm happy to help with that. I just have to fix this thing here. It's making me crazy.
I've seen on various places absolutely spectacular mitten patterns with detail that's incredible, and they're in fingering weight yarn. And I keep thinking, why would you want a fingering weight yarn mitten? Because it's not going to be very warm at all.
Oh, see, and I think I think that tight knit will keep me warmer, as opposed to a bulky knit that's spread out more. I don't know.
I go for bulky knit tight.
Bulky
Was it a
knit.
color work pattern? More than one color in the same row?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
then
well,
you
that-
have
that-
double,
that-
it's double
Right.
thickness.
right,
'Cause You've got all
exactly.
the floats
Yeah.
in the back.
Yeah, which
keep it
would, now
warm.
that will make it warmer because you're
Mhm.
doubling the thickness of the piece, sure.
I'll grab these mittens.
I'm gonna have to say goodbye also. I'm finishing up here at my appointment and but I will see you all on Thursday.
Okey dokes, take care. We'll see you
Okay.
then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
These, this is a really easy pattern because it's 3 in a row of whatever you're doing and it shifts. And this is sport weight.
Yep,
And
that would be nice and warm.
it's not warm enough for today. It's warm enough usually, but not today.
Well, today, nothing, the only thing that's warm enough today is the fireplace.
You're right.
That's
You're right.
it.
And they might pass, but then the first thing I knit when I restarted knitting, I didn't knit for 50 years, so it's a pretty long time. The first thing I knit because one of my students said she was knitting these shagged mittens, and it's a knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one for the whole hand. Then you turn it, this is a Robin Hansen pattern. Then you turn, and it's like old Maine, old Nova Scotia. Then you turn it inside out and you wind each stitch with yarn inside. So wait,
I've never, I'm confused.
Paulette,
Yes,
so
Mary.
this is the
Oh.
outside.
Okay,
And you can maybe, wait, I ran out of brown wool, so
uh-huh.
oh,
inside, this is called, she calls it shagging. So each stitch you wind yarn around and around and around over, and you stick a small knitting needle down to give you a little bit of height. Here I did it with the original
Wow.
brown color, and then I ran out, so I used the orange. They were for me, they weren't for somebody else, so it didn't matter. And these, so you've got the air spaces inside these tubes,
Uh-huh.
plus you have the extra yarn from, like you have the regular mitten yarn plus all
Right,
of this.
plus
what you
the
call
wrapping.
The wrapping,
Interesting.
yeah, which is called shagging, and they are very warm.
Very interesting. Oh, yeah, they look very warm. Mary, what were you saying, darling?
how many rows did you do for your swatch?
Ooh, that was a long time ago. Hold on a second.
I'm thinking, should I be doing 30, 40 rows for a swatch? Make sure.
Maybe 30.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
just to get it so that you can count your rows up. Because I'm short, I'm never really too concerned about the length because I always wind up adjusting it. So I like to know that I'm somewhere in there. But
Okay.
yeah, so I think I did like 28 or 30 rows. No, I think I think I did 26.
20.
for my
Okay.
swatch.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the round, correct?
In the
You did
round.
it In the round. Okay. Okay. That's what I thought you said. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
in the round.
What length is everybody making?
Well, I'm doing the cropped length because I'm a cropped person. So
that's what
yeah.
I'm doing too.
Same with me, crop length, because I'm vertically challenged.
Yeah, I
Now-
figure I'm
Stop
I'm
and knit
cropped.
those.
The crop stops where? At your waist?
Well, I think here's the thing. Whether you're doing the cropped or the longer one, remember we're doing a top-down sweater. You can try it on.
Yeah.
And see where you want to start, where you want to start your border.
Right.
Where, it's like, okay, if I got 4 more inches to go, if I stop now and I do 4 inches a border, then that's going to be a perfect length for me. Everybody is different. The designer designs for what she thinks people will want. Now, this, as I say, it always looks longer to me in the front than it does in the back, but for some reason she says it's the same in both places. But you are adding 4 more rows in the back because of the short rows.
In the photograph looks like the front is a lot longer.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yet
Yeah.
if you look at the the diagram and the finished size, it doesn't say that the front is longer than the back. You know, it doesn't say it has a high-low hem on it, none of that. And I purposely emailed her and asked her.
Huh.
So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
One thing I have a question for you about the needles. Do you need to switch to are you guys using the short needles? Or are you using just your regular needles? And are you going to switch to short needles when you do the sleeve?
Okay, well, I'm gonna let you all answer first and then I'll tell you what I did. So who wants to,
Hey, I'm using the short tips from my Addies
Okay.
for doing the collar with a very short cord. And as I move on, I will A, lengthen the cord, and B, I have the longer tip Addies
Okay.
to transition out at that point.
right? But anybody else?
I started with, I started with Magic Loop, which I really don't like using very much, but I taught myself how to do it because I figured I had to. So I started with that and then I switched to 24-inch and now I'm using 40-inch.
Okay. Anybody else want to share?
I would prefer to, could I have started with a 16-inch?
You could. I used,
That's what I used,
right.
a 16-inch to
There,
do
did you use the
the
16
collar.
inch? What tip, excuse me, Sally, Julie, what size tips are on there? What length?
I think they're just regular tips.
And did you
They're
have
not
any
short
problem with
tips,
them
although,
meeting?
I'm sorry?
Did you have any problem being able for them to meet at the beginning with only the 70 something stitches on them?
No, I did okay.
Okay,
I don't love, I would have started with the shorter tips. I do, you know, I like the shorter tip needles anyway, but I didn't want to have to keep changing my needles. So I started with this and
Okay.
it's been fine.
I couldn't,
So
when I
16-inch,
did my,
but longer tips.
okay, when I did, Ben, what do? You don't have to bark at the dog that's on the camera.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm going to
No,
mute.
don't be silly. He's fine. Well, I started with my 3.5-inch tips and 16-inch,
Okay.
you know, so well, actually it was probably a total 16-inch needle. And then as I got past my collar and started, and, you know, maybe down, you know, several increases was when I changed
Okay.
to my longer needles. If you have short tips, and I will use shorter needles when it gets back to the sleeve again. How about you, Pat?
Oh,
Julie, you
yes,
will?
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. You want to use the smaller tips. I love it's one of the best investments that I made for myself were the short tip interchangeable sets, because I use those so much. I'm using them in the brioche for the brioche class too. Because you're only, you know, it's a cowl, you only have 76 stitches on your needle, 78 stitches on your needle. Those 16-inch needles the 24-inch needle does not work for me.
Mhm.
And
No. And I love these. I got these from you at the
those are the
retreat.
3.5-inch,
These
right?
are the
Yeah.
likey, or I don't know if
Yep.
that's how you say it, but they're the
Yep.
short tips.
Yep.
I love those.
Yeah, I have trouble with short tips. Just the
Why?
way I hold my needles.
Why do you have trouble with the short tips?
Because I hold my needles down in my hand like this.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
See, I'm
Yeah.
really holding down here and knitting up here.
it does take some getting used to with the short tips when you're, you know, when they're a little bit, and I have small hands, so I can't imagine somebody with bigger hands. You know, if you like to grab all your work, you know, and have that hard needle there, it is a little bit fiddly and fumbly when you're doing it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I just prefer it for the ability to knit without having to stretch my work for me.
Paulette, would you hold your hands up so I can see how you hold your needles? See, you're holding your needles with these 3 fingers and knitting with these 2 also.
Correct.
But you must be working closer to the tip.
I always work closer to the tips. I prefer. Yep. Yes. If you see how close my yarn is to the tip.
No, I knit like,
Yeah. See, yeah. To me, that I'm stretching my yarn too much that way. It's just, everybody's different. And that's the fun of doing things like this, because we all have our own little ways of
So
knitting.
you have a smaller angle between the two needles, I think.
Yes, yep, absolutely do.
And it's an impossible thing to change the way you knit. It doesn't happen.
Well, we were talking about that the other night. Was it with this group where I said every time I try to knit continental, I go back to knitting US because it takes me too long to adjust.
And I don't think it's ever really successful. It gets so ingrained in your brain cells somehow or other.
Well, I knit continental, but because of my fingers ache sometimes when I go to purl, I throw
You purl US?
I because I can't hold my finger and switch my finger back and forth. You know, I watch videos and I can get a couple stitches go, and I'm like, I'll just knit continental and then I throw when I purl.
I have a suggestion because I knit both ways. See if you can try an instructional video for the Norwegian purl. Norwegian purl, yes.
Okay.
Beth Brown Reisel has an instructional video, and also Arnie and Carlos.
Oh,
do.
yeah. Okay.
So, but it might be easier for you to give it a try. It may work, may not, but it's another method for continental purling.
Okay.
I do not pick or throw continental or English, none of them. I don't hold my yarn at all. I have no tension on my yarn. I've been knitting like that for over 50 years. A few years back, I was in a knitting group and a gal who owned a yarn shop was looking at me and she said, "Oh, honey, you are not going to be able to knit like that." And then she saw my swatch sitting in front of me. She said, "You knit that swatch like that?" And I said, "Yeah." And my knitting is so even. It's just very smooth and even, but I hold
How do you hold your knitting? How do you hold your yarn?
My yarn, let's see. It stays on the side. And I knit and I pick it up. Now it goes much faster. You don't notice all this movement. When I'm knitting, I'm very fast, but I pick the yarn up and I wrap it.
And then you pick it up again. That's what I do.
Wrap again, every stitch.
I don't, my yarn is not threaded through my fingers. But some people thread the yarn through their
fingers.
fingers.
When I purl, it just sits in front, right in front. And I hold it against the needle, while I'm picking the stitch up, but I pick the yarn up and I'm very fast. But like I say, at 9 years old, my great aunt taught me to knit. That's how she taught me to knit. I didn't have anybody around to show me, the next step to evolve to.
Yeah, see where my yarn is?
So mine's kind of like that too. Yeah.
I just hold it like that.
So
it kind of hangs behind me.
Yeah, I couldn't knit on circulars for years. I did long straights because of the way I held my yarn. One of my long straights rested in the crook of my leg.
Me too. That's exactly what I did.
And then I was in a yarn shop and the owner said, "Oh, that's a Norwegian thing. You would have been one of those belt knitters walking around with your stick in your belt." And so, and it looks very weird. If I'm with a group of people knitting, they're looking at me like, "What the heck are you doing there?" I've
always just I don't like to wrap. Every now and then with this yarn, and I don't know if anyone else finds this, with this yarn, I do like to give it a little extra tension for myself. But that's just me because I love the stitch definition in it. And I want to make sure that I don't stretch it too much. So I'm definitely working hard to keep that nice and even. And I will give it a little extra tension here and there.
Just to make sure that I'm got, with each garment I knit, because I'm a sweater knitter, I just know how much to pull on that yarn when I wrap it.
Right.
I pick it up and, you know,
Right.
it just is the feel of the yarn. And like I say, my knitting is extremely even and consistent.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we are out of time for today. This has been fun, ladies. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday afternoon with me and with each other. And so now we've got till Thursday. I know we don't have a whole lot of time between Thursdays and Saturdays, but if you have any questions between now and then, give me a holler, send me a message, and we'll see what we can do to help you out.
I hope everybody's
you.
yarn shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
hope everybody's yarn shows up too. Keep me posted. Keep me posted. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye,
Take
everybody.
care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
Janet.
Bye.